The elderly woman's voice cut through the morning silence like a knife through silk. "Mr. Reeves, my name is Margaret Baptiste. And this is Zara. Your daughter." Marcus Reeves stood frozen in the doorway of his $30 million estate, staring at a 6-year-old girl who had his exact gray-green eyes staring back at him. "That's impossible," he heard himself whisper. "Vivian left. She never said anything about. Is that what they told you?" Margaret's voice was steady, but there was fire beneath the calm. "That my granddaughter, who loved you so much she cried herself to sleep for months, simply chose to disappear?" Before Marcus could respond, the little girl tugged on her great-grandmother's hand and asked the question that would shatter everything. "Nana, why is that lady looking at us mean?" Marcus turned to see his fiancée Celeste Harrington emerging from her sleek black car, her designer heels clicking against the cobblestone driveway, her perfectly painted lips twisting into something ugly as she took in the scene at the door. "Marcus, darling, what is going on here? Is this some sort of charity visit?" And in that moment, standing between the hollow life he had built and the truth he had been denied for 6 years, Marcus Reeves realized that everything he thought he knew was a lie. What would you do if your entire life was built on someone else's manipulation? What if the woman you loved never betrayed you at all, but was forced away by the person you trusted most? And what if you discovered, 6 years too late, that you had a child you never knew existed? This is the story of a billionaire who had everything except the truth. A woman who built an empire from nothing while raising his daughter alone. And a little girl whose innocent question would burn down a dynasty of lies. But here is what makes this story different. What Marcus did when he learned the truth was not what anyone expected. Not his manipulative mother. Not his status-obsessed fiancée. Not even the woman he had lost. If you believe that love can survive the cruelest betrayals, stay with me until the very end. Because what happens in the final confrontation between Marcus and the woman who stole 7 years of his life will leave you absolutely speechless. And if you have ever been wrongly judged, pushed away, or had someone believe the worst about you when you deserved better, hit that subscribe button right now. Drop a comment telling me your story. I read every single one. Now let me take you back to where this nightmare began. The morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Reeves estate in the Hamptons, casting golden patterns across Italian marble floors that had cost more than most people would earn in a lifetime. Original artwork lined the walls. Fresh flowers filled crystal vases that were older than the nation itself. Every surface gleamed with the kind of perfection that only old money and an army of staff could maintain. Marcus Reeves stood in his private study, surrounded by architectural blueprints spread across an antique desk that had belonged to his great-grandfather. At 37, he was one of the most successful architects in the country, head of a firm that designed luxury resorts, 5-star hotels, and waterfront mansions for the global elite. He should have been happy. He should have been fulfilled. Instead, he felt like he was suffocating in a beautiful cage. His eyes drifted from the Dubai resort blueprints to a drawer he rarely opened anymore. Inside that drawer were different designs entirely. Community centers for underserved neighborhoods. Affordable housing that was actually beautiful. Schools built with natural light and green spaces. The projects he actually cared about, the ones that had nothing to do with profit margins or impressing wealthy clients. He had stopped working on those designs years ago. Right around the time Vivian left. Marcus pushed the thought away like he always did. He had gotten good at that over the past 7 years. Pushing away the memory of brown eyes that saw right through him. Pushing away the sound of a laugh that made him feel like the sun had come out. Pushing away the ache that still lived somewhere beneath his ribs, no matter how many years passed. His phone buzzed. Celeste. Darling, I am on my way over to finalize the seating arrangements for tonight. Did you confirm with the photographer? I want to make sure they capture my good side during the proposal. Your good side, Marcus repeated flatly. You know what I mean. This is going to be all over the society pages. Our brand needs to look perfect. Our brand. Not our love. Not our future. Our brand. I will see you soon, Celeste. He ended the call without saying goodbye. It did not matter. Celeste would not notice. She never did. Tonight was the night. 200 guests. A 4-carat diamond ring his mother had helped select. A proposal scripted to impress the social elite. After 2 years of engagement that had stretched on for reasons Marcus could never quite articulate, he was finally going to set a wedding date. He should have been excited. He felt nothing. The doorbell interrupted his empty thoughts. An unusual occurrence, since visitors to the estate were always announced by the security team long before they reached the main house. His housekeeper appeared in the doorway of his study, her expression troubled in a way that immediately caught his attention. "Mr. Reeves? There is someone at the door. A woman with a child. She is asking for you specifically. I do not have any meeting scheduled. Tell her to contact my office. Sir, she is quite elderly. And the little girl." The housekeeper hesitated, seeming to search for the right words. "She has your eyes." Marcus felt something cold settle in his chest. A premonition. A warning. His body knew what his mind had not yet accepted. He set down his pen and walked toward the foyer, each step feeling heavier than the last. The marble floors that usually felt like home now felt like the path to his own execution. When he opened the door, he forgot how to breathe. An elderly woman stood on his doorstep. Her dark skin was weathered by time, but her posture remained dignified, almost regal. She wore a simple gray dress and held the hand of a little girl who could not have been more than 6 years old. The child had coffee-colored skin and wild curly hair pulled into 2 puffs with bright yellow ribbons. She wore a dress that was clearly her best, probably bought for this very occasion. And she looked up at Marcus with curiosity, confusion, and something that might have been hope. But it was her eyes that stopped his heart. Gray-green eyes. His exact gray-green eyes. The same distinctive color that had been passed down through 4 generations of Reeves men. The same eyes that looked back at him every morning in the mirror. There was more. His widow's peak, replicated in miniature on her small forehead. The slight cleft in his chin, softened but unmistakable on her face. His bone structure, delicate but undeniable. This child was his. He knew it with a certainty that transcended logic. "Mr. Reeves," the elderly woman said, her voice carrying an accent he recognized immediately. The same lilting Caribbean cadence that had once belonged to someone he had spent 7 years trying to forget. "My name is Margaret Baptiste. And this is Zara. Your daughter." The words hit him like a physical blow. "That's impossible," he heard himself say. His voice sounded distant, like it belonged to someone else. Vivian left. She did not, she never said. She did not know when she left. Margaret's voice was calm but firm. She found out 2 months later. And by then, your family had made it very clear what would happen if she ever came back. What are you talking about? She left by choice. She ghosted me. No call, no letter, nothing. Margaret's eyes hardened with an anger that had clearly been simmering for years. Is that what they told you? That my granddaughter, who loved you so much she cried herself to sleep for months after leaving, simply chose to disappear? Before Marcus could process her words, the crunch of tires on gravel announced another arrival. A sleek black car pulled into the circular driveway, and Celeste Harrington emerged like she had stepped from the pages of a fashion magazine. Her blonde hair was perfectly styled in waves that had probably taken 2 hours to achieve. Her cream designer suit was immaculate, chosen specifically to photograph well against the estate's architecture. Her expression shifted from pleasant anticipation to cold suspicion as she took in the scene at the door. "Marcus, darling, what is going on here?" She approached with measured steps, her eyes sweeping over Margaret and Zara with barely concealed disdain. "Is this some sort of charity visit?" Zara, who had been silent until now, tugged on her great-grandmother's hand. Her small voice carried the brutal honesty that only children possess. "Nana, why is that lady looking at us mean?" The innocent question cut through the tension like a blade. Celeste's carefully maintained smile tightened into something ugly. "Marcus, who are these people?" "This is..." Marcus looked at the child who shared his eyes, his widow's peak, even the subtle tilt of her head when she was thinking. "I need a moment, Celeste. Please wait inside." "Wait inside? Our engagement dinner is in 6 hours, and you are asking me to wait inside while you entertain the help? Celeste." His voice carried a warning edge she had never heard before. Something new. Something that scared her. Inside. Now. Something flickered in her eyes. Surprise, perhaps, at being spoken to this way. Or the first hint of understanding that her carefully constructed future was about to crumble. She walked past them without another word, but the click of her heels on the marble sounded like a countdown to disaster. Marcus turned back to Margaret and Zara. The morning sun caught the child's hair, making the ribbons glow like small flames. She looked up at him with those impossible eyes, and he felt something crack open in his chest. "Please," he said, his voice rough. "Come in. I think we have a lot to talk about." He led them into the formal living room, a space designed to impress and intimidate with its museum-quality furniture and priceless artwork. Margaret moved through it with quiet dignity, unimpressed by the wealth surrounding her. She had cleaned rooms like this her entire life. She knew that money could not buy what truly mattered. Zara, on the other hand, studied everything with obvious curiosity. She paused in front of a painting, a cold abstract piece in shades of gray and blue that had cost more than most houses. "This painting looks lonely," she observed. Marcus stared at her. In 6 words, his daughter had articulated something he had felt for years but never been able to name. "It does, doesn't it?" Zara pulled a small sketchbook from her bag. "I like to draw happy things. Want to see?" "Zara," Margaret said gently. "Let the grown-ups talk first." "It is okay." Marcus found himself crouching to the child's level. "I would like to see." Zara opened her sketchbook with the seriousness of an artist presenting her life's work. Inside were crayon drawings of remarkable expressiveness for a 6-year-old. A house with a garden full of flowers. A woman with long dark hair smiling. An elderly figure that was clearly Margaret. And on one page, a family portrait with 3 figures and a 4th drawn in lighter colors, almost ghostly. "That's Mommy and me and Nana," Zara explained, pointing to each figure. "And that's the daddy I never met." Marcus felt his throat close. The ghostly 4th figure had gray-green eyes, carefully colored in with a crayon that had been worn down to a stub from use. "You drew his eyes the same as yours," he managed. "Nana showed me pictures. She said I got them from him. She said he would have loved me if he knew about me." Marcus had to look away to compose himself. When he trusted his voice again, he looked at Margaret. "Tell me everything." Margaret settled into a chair with the weariness of someone who had carried a heavy burden for too long. "It started the summer of 2017. Vivian came to work here while she was finishing her design degree. I had worked for your family for 30 years by then. I thought it was safe. I thought she would just do her job and leave. I did not expect her to fall in love." "Neither did I," Marcus said quietly. "She told me about you. About how you were different from the other wealthy men she had encountered. How you actually listened when she spoke. How you drew buildings that helped people instead of just impressing them. Margaret paused. She said you made her feel seen. The words hit Marcus like a fist to the chest. That was exactly what Vivian had done for him too. She had seen past the money, past the expectations, past the polished surface to the man underneath who had been slowly suffocating. What happened? When she left? She did not leave by choice, Mr. Reeves. She was forced out. Forced out by who? Margaret's expression hardened. By your mother. The words hung in the air between them, heavy and damning. That is not possible. My mother told me. Your mother is a very convincing liar when she wants to be. Before Marcus could respond, the living room door flew open. Celeste stood in the doorway, her face flushed with impatience. Marcus, I have been waiting for 20 minutes. We have photographers coming in 4 hours, and I still need to. She stopped when she saw the tears on his face. In 2 years of their relationship, she had never seen Marcus Reeves cry. What is happening? What did these people tell you? Celeste, I need you to leave. Leave? I am your fiancé. Not anymore. The words came out before Marcus fully processed them, but as soon as they were spoken, he knew they were right. They were the most right words he had said in years. Celeste's face went pale, then red with fury. You cannot be serious. You are throwing away our future for some maid's brat? The word brat directed at his daughter ignited something in Marcus that he had not felt in years. Something protective. Something paternal. Get out. Excuse me? Get out of my house. Get out of my life. We are done. Your mother will hear about this. Good. I have quite a lot to say to my mother myself. Celeste's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. In all her years in high society, she had never been so thoroughly dismissed. She gathered what remained of her dignity and stormed toward the door. You will regret this, Marcus. When the scandal breaks, when your reputation is destroyed, you will come crawling back. I will take that chance. The door slammed behind her with a force that rattled the priceless artwork on the walls. Zara looked up at Marcus with wide eyes. That lady was mean. I am glad she left. Despite everything, despite the revelation still swirling through his mind and the confrontation still to come, Marcus almost smiled. Me too. He turned back to Margaret, who had watched the entire exchange with quiet approval. Now tell me everything. From the beginning. Margaret nodded and began the story that would unravel 7 years of lies. It was 3 weeks before Vivian was supposed to leave for the summer. You had gone to a conference in New York. The morning after you left, your mother summoned Vivian to her private office. Marcus felt cold dread settling in his stomach. He knew his mother's private office. It was designed for exactly one purpose. Intimidation. What happened in that office? Your mother did not waste time with pleasantries. She told Vivian that she knew about your relationship. She called her a schemer, a gold digger, a maid's granddaughter trying to seduce her way into the family. That is not who Vivian was. No. It was not. But your mother was not interested in truth. She was interested in control. Margaret's voice remained steady, but Marcus could hear the anger simmering beneath the surface. This was a wound that had never healed. Your mother laid out exactly what would happen if Vivian did not leave immediately. She said she would destroy my pension. 30 years of service, and she would find a way to take it all away. She said she would have Vivian blacklisted from every interior design firm on the East Coast. She threatened legal action for targeting her son. That is insane. There was nothing to take legal action over. Your mother did not need a real case. She just needed the threat. She said she would dedicate significant resources to making our lives hell. And then she gave Vivian an envelope. Marcus closed his eyes. He already knew what was in that envelope. $50,000 and 2 plane tickets. Your mother told Vivian to take the money and leave that day. To never contact you again. And Vivian took it. She had no choice, Mr. Reeves. It was not about the money. It was about protecting me. About protecting herself from a woman who had the power to destroy everything she had worked for. Margaret's voice cracked slightly. Vivian loved you. But she also knew that you had never stood up to your mother. Not once. And she could not risk our future on the hope that this time would be different. The words cut deep because they were true. Marcus had spent his entire life deferring to his mother. Keeping the peace. Avoiding conflict. Letting Victoria Reeves run his life while he told himself he was just being a good son. I would have fought for her, he said, but even as the words left his mouth, he was not sure they were true. Margaret gave him a long, measuring look. Would you have? Against your mother? Against your entire family? Against everything you had ever known? Marcus could not answer. The silence was its own condemnation. Vivian took the money because she had no other choice. She flew to Chicago that same day. She did not even get to say goodbye to me. Your mother had arranged for me to be needed at your family's other property. By the time I returned, my granddaughter was gone. And you never told me. How could I? Your mother made it very clear that if I interfered, I would lose everything. And I believed her. I had watched her destroy people before. People with more power than I ever had. Marcus stood and walked to the window, staring out at the manicured grounds without really seeing them. Everything he had believed for 7 years was a lie. Vivian had not betrayed him. She had been forced away by the woman who was supposed to protect him. When did she find out she was pregnant? 2 months after she left. She was living in a tiny apartment in Chicago, working 3 jobs just to pay rent. She took a pregnancy test one morning and her whole world changed. She never thought to contact me. She thought about it every single day. But your mother's threats were still hanging over her head. And by then, she had convinced herself that you probably did not care anyway. That you had believed whatever story your mother told you. That you had moved on. Marcus thought about the years that had followed. The hollow relationships. The engagement to a woman he did not love. The projects he did not care about. The drawer full of abandoned dreams. He had not moved on. He had just learned to pretend. Tell me about Zara. Tell me about my daughter. Margaret's expression softened for the first time since she arrived. She was born 6 weeks early. Vivian was terrified. She was alone in the hospital, no partner, no family except me when I finally found her. The labor was hard. There were complications. But Zara came out fighting. Marcus looked at the little girl who was now drawing quietly on the floor, filling her sketchbook with images of flowers and sunshine. She was so small. So fragile. But she had your eyes from the very first moment. And Vivian cried when she saw them. She said it was like having a piece of you with her, even though you were gone. How did Vivian manage? Raising a child alone while building a career? She did what she had to do. She worked during the day while I watched Zara. She studied at night after Zara was asleep. She sacrificed everything, every moment of rest, every personal desire, to give that child a good life. Margaret's voice swelled with pride. And she did it, Mr. Reeves. She built an interior design company from nothing. Baptiste Designs. Small but growing. Her reputation is spreading. She has made something beautiful out of the ashes your family left behind. Why are you here now? After all these years? Margaret was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight that made Marcus's heart clench. I am 81 years old, Mr. Reeves. My doctor tells me I have perhaps a year left, if God is generous. And I could not die knowing that Zara would never have the chance to know her father. Vivian does not know you are here. No. She would be furious if she found out. She has spent 7 years building a life without any help from your family. She is proud. She is stubborn. And she is still hurt. She has every right to be. Yes, she does. But Zara has rights too. The right to know where she comes from. The right to know her father, if he is worthy of being known. Margaret fixed Marcus with a piercing stare. Are you worthy, Mr. Reeves? It was the question Marcus had been avoiding his entire life. Not just about fatherhood, but about everything. Was he worthy of the love Vivian had given him? Was he worthy of the legacy he had inherited? Was he worthy of being more than a puppet dancing on his mother's strings? I do not know, he admitted. But I want to find out. That is the first honest thing you have said today. The sound of the front door opening interrupted them. Heels clicking on marble. The distinctive rhythm of his mother's walk. Victoria Reeves swept into the living room like a cold front moving across a battlefield. She was dressed in her usual uniform of understated elegance, every hair in place, every accessory chosen to convey wealth and breeding. She stopped short when she saw Margaret and Zara. For just a moment, fear flickered across her perfectly composed face. Then she recovered, smoothing her expression into one of polite confusion. Marcus, darling, Celeste called me absolutely hysterical. What is this nonsense about canceling the engagement? Her eyes swept over Margaret and the child. And what are they doing here? Margaret told me everything, Mother. Victoria's mask did not slip. I am sure she told you her version. Her version is the truth. You threatened Vivian. You forced her to leave. You told me she was a gold digger who took your money and ran. I was protecting you. Protecting this family. From what? From a woman who loved me? From a granddaughter you have never met? The word granddaughter hit Victoria like a slap. For the first time, she really looked at Zara. She saw her son's eyes in the child's face. Her own mother's bone structure softened by youth. The unmistakable stamp of Reeves' bloodline in miniature. That is impossible, she breathed. It is very possible. Vivian was pregnant when you forced her to leave. She did not even know it yet. You stole 6 years of my daughter's life. 6 years I will never get back. Marcus, be reasonable. This is clearly some kind of scheme. They want money. They have never asked for a cent. Marcus's voice was rising now, anger breaking through the calm facade he had maintained for years. Vivian built a business alone. She raised my daughter alone. She never came to us for anything because you threatened to destroy her if she did. Victoria's composure was cracking. That girl was not suitable. She was staff. She had no pedigree, no connections, no. She had character. She had honesty. She had more integrity in her smallest moment than you have shown in your entire life. How dare you? No, Mother. How dare you? You stole the woman I loved. You hid my child from me. You let me spend 7 years believing I had been betrayed when the only betrayal came from you. Zara had stopped drawing. She was watching the confrontation with wide, frightened eyes. Margaret moved to comfort her, pulling her close. Here is what is going to happen, Mother. Marcus's voice dropped to something cold and hard, something Victoria had never heard from her compliant son. You will have no contact with me, with Vivian, or with Zara until you can genuinely apologize for what you have done. Not a society apology. Not a performance. A real acknowledgement of the damage you caused. You cannot be serious. I have never been more serious. If you attempt to interfere in any way, if you threaten Vivian or her family again, I will donate my entire inheritance to every charity you despise. I will cut off every family connection. And I will make sure everyone in your precious social circle knows exactly what kind of person you are." Victoria's face went pale. In 40 years of marriage and motherhood, no one had ever spoken to her this way. Not her husband. Not her son. Not anyone. "Now get out. I have a flight to Chicago to book." Victoria opened her mouth to respond, but no words came. For the first time in Marcus's memory, his mother had nothing to say. She turned and walked out of the room. The front door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like the end of an era. Marcus stood in the silence that followed, his hands shaking, his heart pounding. He had just burned down every bridge to his old life. And it felt like freedom. Margaret was watching him with something like approval. That took courage. It took 7 years too long. Zara tugged on his sleeve. When he looked down at her, she was holding up her sketchbook to show him her latest drawing. A house with sunshine and flowers, and 4 figures standing in front of it. This time, all 4 figures were drawn in solid colors, not ghostly outlines. "This is what I want my family to look like," she said. "Do you think it could happen?" Marcus felt his eyes burning with tears he did not try to hide. "I think we can try, sweetheart. I think we can definitely try." 2 days later, Marcus Reeves stepped off a plane at O'Hare International Airport with nothing but a carry-on bag and a heart full of terrified hope. He had never been to Chicago before. It had always been too close to where Vivian was, even when he thought she had betrayed him. Some part of him had always known he could not handle being in the same city without looking for her. Margaret had given him Vivian's address. She had also given him a warning. She is not going to make this easy. She has had 7 years to build walls around her heart. You are going to have to prove that you are worth letting in. How do I do that? By showing up. Every day. Even when she pushes you away. Especially when she pushes you away. The taxi dropped him in front of a modest apartment building in a neighborhood that was clearly working class but well maintained. Flower boxes in the windows. Children playing on the sidewalk. A sense of community that was completely absent from the wealthy enclaves Marcus had always called home. This was where Vivian had built her life. This was where his daughter had grown up. He climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor and stood in front of apartment 3B for a full 5 minutes before he found the courage to knock. The door flew open almost immediately. And there she was. Vivian Baptiste looked almost exactly as he remembered, but with 7 years of experience etched into her features. Her dark hair was shorter now, practical for a working single mother. There were faint lines around her eyes that had not been there before. Her hands were ink-stained from design work. She was still the most beautiful woman he had ever seen. "What the hell are you doing here?" Her voice was sharp with anger, but beneath it he could hear something else. Fear. Vulnerability. The ghost of a love that had never fully died. "Margaret came to see me. She told me everything. She told me what my mother did to you." "So what? You expect me to fall into your arms? Welcome you back like nothing happened?" "No. I expect you to be furious. I expect you to slam this door in my face. I probably deserve it. You definitely deserve it." But she did not slam the door. She stood there, breathing hard, her hands gripping the doorframe like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Can I come in? Please? Just to talk. My daughter is inside." "I know. I have already met her." Vivian's face went white. "What?" "Margaret brought her to the Hamptons. That is how I found out. That is how I learned that everything I believed for 7 years was a lie. My grandmother had no right. She had every right. She is dying, Vivian. She wanted Zara to have a chance to know her father before she was gone. Vivian's anger faltered. She had known about Margaret's diagnosis, of course. But hearing it spoken aloud, in the context of everything else, seemed to break something inside her. "Come in," she said quietly. "Before the neighbors start gossiping." The apartment was small but immaculate. Vivian's design was evident in every corner, from the clever use of space to the carefully chosen colors that made the modest rooms feel warm and welcoming. Children's artwork covered one wall, a gallery of Zara's creative growth. Zara herself was sitting at the kitchen table, working on homework. She looked up when Marcus entered, and her face lit up. "You came. Nana said you would come, but Mommy did not believe her." "Zara," Vivian said sharply. "Go to your room, please." "But..." "Now." Zara reluctantly gathered her things and retreated to her bedroom, casting longing looks over her shoulder. Once the door closed behind her, Vivian turned on Marcus with fury in her eyes. "How dare you? How dare you come into my home, into my daughter's life, after all these years? Our daughter. She is mine. I raised her. I was there for every fever, every nightmare, every first day of school. You were nowhere. Because I did not know she existed. Because my mother stole that from me. And you believed her. You believed I would take money and run. After everything we shared, you believed I was capable of that. I believed it because the alternative hurt even more. The idea that you left without explanation, without a word, for no reason. I could not face that. So I let my mother's lies fill in the blanks. How convenient for you. It was not convenient. It was cowardly. And I have spent the last 2 days coming to terms with exactly how much of a coward I was. If you have ever been wrongly judged, if you have ever been betrayed by someone who should have protected you, you know exactly how Vivian felt in that moment. The rage. The vindication. The tiny, terrifying flicker of hope that maybe, finally, someone was seeing the truth. Like this video if you have ever wanted someone to understand what you went through. Comment the word truth if you believe that lies always come to light eventually. And keep watching, because what happens next in this Chicago apartment will change everything. Vivian stood in the middle of her living room, arms crossed, every line of her body radiating defensive anger. But Marcus could see something else too. The slight tremor in her hands. The way her eyes kept flickering to Zara's closed door. The walls she had built to protect herself were thick, but they were not impenetrable. "Why are you really here, Marcus? What do you want?" "I want a chance to know my daughter. I want to be part of her life." "That is not up to you. That is up to me. And I have spent 7 years making sure Zara was protected from your world." "Protected from me, you mean? Protected from the people who throw money at problems instead of facing them. Protected from a family that sees people like me as the help, as schemes to be thwarted, as threats to their precious bloodline. My mother's views are not my views. Are they not? You spent 7 years believing her story about me. You never questioned it. You never tried to find me. I know. And that is something I will regret for the rest of my life. But I cannot change the past, Vivian. I can only try to do better in the future. Words are easy, Marcus. You said you loved me once. Then you let me disappear without a fight. I did. I let you disappear because I was too weak to challenge my mother. Because I had spent my entire life following the path she laid out for me. But I am not that man anymore. Prove it. The 2 words hung in the air between them. A challenge. A test. How? Time. Consistency. Show me that you can be a reliable presence in Zara's life before you start making claims about anything else. Show me through actions, not words. Done. I mean years, Marcus. Not weeks or months. Years. I will not let you waltz in, play daddy for a while, and then disappear when it gets hard or boring or inconvenient. I understand. Do you? Because from where I am standing, you are a man who has never had to work for anything in his life. Everything has been handed to you. Money. Success. Opportunities. How do I know you will not give up when things get difficult? Because I have already lost you once. I have already missed 6 years of my daughter's life. I am not going to miss any more. Vivian studied his face, searching for the lie, the weakness, the privileged man who would retreat at the first sign of hardship. And what about your mother? What happens when she tries to interfere again? I told her she is cut off until she can genuinely apologize. If she interferes, I will cut all ties permanently. Strong words. I mean them. She is still your mother. She is a woman who destroyed the best thing that ever happened to me. She hid my child from me for 6 years. There is no family loyalty that survives that kind of betrayal. Vivian was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer but no less guarded. What about your fiancé? What about the perfect society wedding your mother had planned? Celeste and I are done. I ended at the moment I found out about Zara. Just like that? It should have ended years ago. I only stayed because I could not face being alone. Because I thought the life my mother wanted for me was the only life available. Marcus paused. You were right, all those years ago. She controlled my money, but she was also controlling my soul. I let her do it because it was easier than fighting. And now? Now I am done letting anyone control me. Not my mother. Not society. Not the expectations I have been carrying since I was born. He met her eyes with a directness that surprised them both. I am opening a satellite office of my firm here in Chicago. I am going to be present for Zara, whether that makes your life easier or harder. You are moving here. It was not a question, but Marcus answered anyway. I am. Not because I expect you to take me back. Not because I am trying to force my way into your life. But because our daughter deserves to have her father nearby. And because I spent 7 years building a life that meant nothing. It is time to build something that matters. Zara's bedroom door cracked open. A small face appeared in the gap. Are you done fighting yet? I want to show Daddy my room. Vivian and Marcus both turned at the word Daddy. It was the first time either of them had heard Zara use it so casually, so naturally. We are not fighting, sweetheart, Vivian said, but her voice had lost some of its edge. We are just talking. It sounded like fighting. Your voices were loud. Sometimes adults have to talk loudly to make sure they understand each other. Vivian looked at Marcus with an expression he could not quite read. You can show him your room. Just for a few minutes. Zara's face lit up. She grabbed Marcus's hand and pulled him toward her bedroom with the enthusiasm of a child who had waited 6 years for this moment. The room was small but filled with personality. Artwork covered every available surface. Books were stacked 3 deep on shelves. A small desk held colored pencils organized by color in a rainbow gradient. This is where I do my best work, Zara announced seriously. Mommy says every artist needs a space where they can think. Your mommy is very smart. I know. She is the smartest person I know. Except maybe Nana. Nana knows everything. Marcus smiled despite himself. What kind of art do you like to make? All kinds. But mostly I like drawing things that make people happy. Mommy says the world has enough sad things in it. Art should make people smile. That is a good philosophy. Zara pulled out a folder from her desk drawer. These are my favorites. I was saving them to show you. If I ever met you, I mean. Nana always said I would meet you someday. Inside the folder were dozens of drawings, carefully preserved. Houses with gardens. People with big smiles. And recurring throughout, a figure with gray-green eyes labeled Daddy in a child's handwriting. I always drew you in the pictures, Zara explained. Even though you were not there. Mommy said you could not be part of our lives, but she never said you were bad. She just said it was complicated. It was complicated. It still is, a little bit. But I want to try to uncomplicate it. Does that mean you will stay? Marcus looked at his daughter, at this incredible child who had grown up without him but who still wanted him in her life. I am going to try my very best. Zara nodded solemnly. Good. Because I already told my friend Maya that my daddy was coming to visit, and she did not believe me. Now I can prove her wrong. Marcus laughed, and it was a real laugh, the kind he had almost forgotten how to produce. I will definitely be here to prove Maya wrong. When they returned to the living room, Vivian was sitting on the couch, her expression thoughtful. She had been listening to their conversation, Marcus realized. Hearing how Zara spoke to him. Testing whether he was worthy of her daughter's trust. You should go, she said quietly. Zara needs to finish her homework, and I need to think. I understand. Can I come back tomorrow? Vivian hesitated. Then she nodded once. Neutral ground. The park on the corner at 3 o'clock. We will see how it goes. Thank you, Vivian. Thank you for giving me a chance. I am not giving you anything. You are going to have to earn it. I know. And I will. As Marcus walked back to his hotel through the unfamiliar streets of Chicago, he thought about everything that had happened in the past 3 days. He had lost his fiancée. He had confronted his mother. He had met the daughter he never knew existed. And he had taken the first small step toward rebuilding a relationship with the only woman he had ever truly loved. He did not know if Vivian would ever forgive him. He did not know if he could be the father Zara deserved. He did not know if any of this would work. But for the first time in 7 years, he felt like his life had meaning. Like he was fighting for something that mattered. And that was worth everything. This is where the first part of our story ends, but the journey is far from over. Marcus has faced the truth about his mother's manipulation. He has met his daughter for the first time. He has stood before the woman he lost and asked for a chance to make things right. But earning Vivian's trust will not happen overnight. It will take months of showing up. It will take confronting his family again when they try to interfere. It will take proving through actions, not words, that he has truly changed. In the next part of this story, you will see Marcus fight for his family in ways he never fought before. You will see Vivian struggle with whether to let him back into her heart. You will see Victoria Reeves make one final attempt to control her son. And you will witness a wedding that no one expected, a reconciliation that seemed impossible, and a family finally made whole. If you want to see how this story ends, make sure you are subscribed to this channel. Hit the notification bell so you do not miss part 2. And drop a comment below telling me whether you think Vivian should forgive Marcus or whether he still has more to prove. Some people say that love is not enough to fix what has been broken. But what if love is just the beginning? What if the real work is showing up, every single day, and choosing to do better than you did before? Stay with me, because what happens next will have you reaching for the tissues. The next morning, Marcus woke up in a hotel room that cost more per night than most people paid in monthly rent. He stared at the ceiling for a long time, thinking about the small apartment where his daughter lived. The artwork on the walls. The books stacked everywhere. The warmth that money could never buy. He picked up his phone and made the first of many calls that would change the direction of his life. By the end of the week, he had leased office space in downtown Chicago. By the end of the month, he had hired a small team and begun transferring projects from the New York headquarters. By the end of the second month, he had sold his Hamptons estate and purchased a modest townhouse 15 minutes from Vivian's apartment. His mother called 17 times during those 2 months. He did not answer once. His former fiancée's lawyers sent threatening letters about breach of promise and emotional damages. He forwarded them to his own legal team and never thought about them again. The society pages ran stories about the fallen Reeves heir, the billionaire who had abandoned his perfect life for reasons no one could explain. He did not read them. The only thing that mattered was 3 o'clock every afternoon, when he would meet Vivian and Zara at the park on the corner. The first month was awkward. Vivian sat on a bench while Marcus pushed Zara on the swings, her eyes tracking his every movement like she was waiting for him to make a mistake. She answered his attempts at conversation with monosyllables. She kept Zara close when it was time to leave, as if she feared he might try to take her. Marcus did not push. He showed up. He was patient. He remembered every detail Zara shared about her life and asked follow-up questions the next day. "You remembered my friend Maya's birthday party," Zara said one afternoon, her voice filled with wonder. "Mommy says most grown-ups do not remember kid stuff." "Kid stuff is the most important stuff," Marcus replied. "What matters to you matters to me." Vivian was watching from her bench. He could not see her expression, but something in her posture seemed to soften slightly. The second month, Vivian started joining them on the swings occasionally. She would stand nearby while Marcus and Zara played, close enough to hear their conversations, far enough to maintain her distance. "She is testing you," Margaret told him during one of their phone calls. "Seeing if you will get bored. Seeing if you will disappear when she is not watching." "I am not going anywhere." "I know that. But she does not. Not yet." The third month, Zara had a nightmare. It was 2 in the morning when Vivian's number appeared on his phone, and his heart stopped for a terrible moment, thinking something had happened. "She wants to talk to you," Vivian said without preamble. "She had a bad dream and she keeps asking for her daddy. I told her it was too late to call, but she would not stop crying. Put her on." Marcus spent the next hour on the phone with his daughter, making up a story about a brave princess who fought off nightmare monsters with a magic paintbrush. By the time Zara fell asleep, he could hear Vivian breathing on the other end of the line. "You are still there," he said. "I wanted to make sure she was okay." "She is. I think she just needed to hear my voice." A long pause. Then, quietly, "Thank you for being there. I will always be there, Vivian. No matter what time it is." She hung up without responding, but something had shifted between them. He could feel it. The fourth month, Marcus attended Zara's school art show. He stood in front of his daughter's paintings with tears in his eyes while other parents milled around, unaware that they were witnessing a man meeting his child's talent for the first time. Zara had painted a series called My Family. There was a portrait of Vivian, strong and beautiful. A portrait of Margaret, wise and kind. A portrait of the apartment building where they lived, with flowers growing on the fire escape. And a new painting. A man with gray-green eyes, standing next to a little girl with matching eyes, both of them laughing in front of a house that did not exist yet. "That is the house I want us to live in someday," Zara explained. "When we are all together." Marcus bought all 4 paintings. He hung them in his new office, where he could see them every day. Vivian found him standing in front of them after the show ended. "She has been working on that last one for weeks," she said quietly. "She would not let me see it until tonight. She has your talent. She has her own talent. I just gave her the tools to express it." They stood in silence for a moment, looking at their daughter's vision of the future. "You came," Vivian said finally. "To the art show. I was not sure you would. Why would I miss it? I thought maybe. I do not know. I thought maybe the novelty would wear off." That you would get tired of school events and park visits and all the ordinary stuff that comes with being a parent. This is not novelty, Vivian. This is my life now. The ordinary stuff is exactly what I want. She looked at him with an expression he had not seen in 7 years. Not quite trust. But something close to it. You really have changed, have you not? I am trying to. Every day. The 5th month, Vivian asked Marcus to help with a design project. Not as an investor or a patron, but as a fellow professional. An equal. They worked late into the night at her small office, surrounded by fabric samples and floor plans. Their hands brushed reaching for the same pencil. Their ideas built on each other in ways that felt natural, effortless. You should expand, Marcus said during one of their sessions. Your work is incredible. You could be doing projects all over the city. I like keeping things small. More control that way. Less risk. Is that about the business? Or about life in general? Vivian set down her pencil. Probably both. After what happened with your mother. I learned that trusting the wrong people can destroy everything you have built. I am not trying to destroy anything. I am trying to help you build. I know. That is what scares me. What do you mean? When you left, when I thought you had abandoned me, I learned how to do everything alone. I learned how to need no one. It was the only way to survive. She met his eyes. Letting you help means admitting that I cannot do it all myself. And that feels dangerous. Needing people is not the same as being weak. Says the man who had everything handed to him. Says the man who has learned that having everything means nothing if you do not have the right people to share it with. They sat in the quiet office, the city lights flickering outside the window. Somewhere in the distance, a siren wailed. I do not know if I can ever fully trust you, Vivian admitted. What your mother did, what you believed about me, it broke something inside me that might never fully heal. I am not asking for your trust. Not yet. I am just asking for the chance to earn it. You are earning it. Slowly. Against my better judgment. Marcus smiled. I will take slowly. Slowly is better than not at all. The 6th month brought the first real test of Marcus's new convictions. It was a Tuesday afternoon. Marcus was at Zara's school for parent pickup, something he had started doing twice a week to give Vivian time for client meetings. He was waiting by the gate when he saw a figure that made his blood run cold. Victoria Reeves stood near the playground, speaking to a confused-looking Zara. Marcus crossed the distance in seconds. Get away from my daughter. Victoria turned, her face arranged in an expression of wounded innocence. Marcus, darling, I was just introducing myself. She is my granddaughter, after all. You have no claim to her. We discussed this. I know what we discussed. But I also know that family is important, and that little girl deserves to know all of her relatives. Zara looked between them with wide, uncertain eyes. Is this the lady Mommy told me about? The one who made her go away? Victoria's mask slipped for just a moment. She had not expected the child to know. Your mother told you stories, sweetheart. Grown-up stories are often complicated. Mommy does not tell stories. Mommy tells the truth. Marcus felt a surge of pride at his daughter's loyalty. Vivian had raised her well. Mother, I am going to say this once. Leave. Now. If you ever approach my daughter again, if you ever try to contact her or Vivian or interfere in our lives in any way, I will follow through on every single threat I made. I will destroy the Reeves legacy before I let you poison my family. Your family? These people are not your family. They are strangers you have known for 6 months. They are the only family that matters to me now. Victoria's face hardened into something ugly. You are making a terrible mistake, Marcus. That woman has manipulated you, turned you against your own blood. No, Mother. You did that all by yourself, 7 years ago. The only thing Vivian ever did was love me. And you could not stand it. He called the school security officer, who escorted Victoria off the property while she protested about her rights as a grandmother. Marcus held Zara's hand the entire time, feeling her small fingers tremble. I am sorry you had to see that, sweetheart. That lady is not going to bother you again. She said she was my grandmother. Is that true? Marcus knelt to Zara's level. She is my mother. That makes her your biological grandmother. But being family is about more than blood. It is about how you treat the people you love. And she has not treated your mother or me or you with the love that family deserves. Zara considered this with the seriousness of a child processing difficult truths. So she is family by blood but not by love? That is a very smart way to put it. I think love family is more important than blood family. I think so too. When Vivian arrived at the school 20 minutes later, she was pale with fury. The principal had called her immediately after the incident. Is she okay? Did Victoria say anything to hurt her? Zara is fine. I got there before anything happened. Vivian looked at her daughter, who was drawing at a table in the principal's office, seemingly unaffected by the drama. You protected her. Of course I did. No, I mean. Vivian struggled for words. You were there. You got between her and your mother. You chose her. I will always choose her. And you. That is not even a question. Vivian stared at him for a long moment. Then, without warning, she hugged him. It was brief, almost hesitant, but it was the first time she had voluntarily touched him since his arrival in Chicago. When she pulled away, her eyes were shining. Thank you, Marcus. For being there. For being the father she needed. Thank you for letting me try. That evening, after Zara was in bed, Vivian invited Marcus to stay for a drink on her tiny balcony. They sat in plastic chairs, looking out at the city lights, nursing glasses of wine that probably cost less than what Marcus used to spend on a single appetizer. Tell me about the last 7 years, Marcus said. Not the struggles. The good parts. The things that made it worth it. Vivian was quiet for a moment, gathering her thoughts. Zara's first word was Mama. She said it at 11 months old, and I cried for an hour. My first design client was a retired teacher who wanted to make her small apartment feel bigger. She paid me in cookies and referrals. 3 of those referrals became paying clients. What else? Zara's first day of kindergarten. She walked into that classroom like she owned it, turned around, waved at me, and said, I got this, Mommy. She was 5 years old, and she already had more confidence than I had at 25. Marcus smiled, picturing the scene. There was a night, about 3 years ago, when everything felt impossible. A client had stiffed me on a bill, the rent was due, and Zara needed new shoes because she had grown out of everything. I sat on this balcony and cried until I had nothing left. What happened? Zara came out here in her pajamas. She was 5 years old. She crawled into my lap and said, Mommy, why are you sad? And I told her I was worried about money. You know what she said? What? She said, but we have each other. That is worth more than money. She was 5, Marcus. And she understood something I had been trying to learn my whole life. Marcus felt his throat tighten. She is incredible. She is. And I would go through all of it again, every struggle, every sleepless night, every moment of doubt, because it led me here. To this life. To her. I wish I had been there. I know. Part of me wishes that too. But another part of me thinks maybe we both needed this time. Maybe you needed to become the man you are now, and I needed to become the woman I am now, before we could try again. Try again? Vivian looked at him, and for the first time, he saw something beyond guardedness in her eyes. Something that looked like possibility. I have been pushing you away for 6 months. Testing you. Waiting for you to fail. And you have not. Not once. You have shown up every single day. You have put Zara first. You have respected my boundaries. You have even defended us against your own mother. I meant every word I said. I meant every action I took. I know. That is what terrifies me. She took a deep breath. I am still scared, Marcus. I am scared of letting you in completely and having you disappear. I am scared of trusting someone who hurt me once before. I am scared of wanting something I might not get to keep. What are you scared of wanting? She was quiet for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. You. Us. The family Zara has been drawing pictures of for years. The life I told myself I did not need because needing it hurt too much. Marcus reached across the small space between them and took her hand. I am not going anywhere. Whatever you need, however long it takes, I am here. I will wait for you to be ready. And if you are never ready, if all you can ever give me is this, being Zara's co-parent, being in your life without being your partner, I will take it. Because having you in my life at all is better than the emptiness I have been living in. Vivian's fingers tightened around his. I am not saying I am ready for everything. I am not saying I trust you completely. But maybe we could start to explore what this could be. Slowly. Carefully. Slowly and carefully sounds perfect. They sat together on the balcony until the stars came out, holding hands and not saying much at all. Sometimes the most important conversations happen in silence. The months that followed were a gradual unfolding, like a flower blooming in slow motion. There were setbacks. Moments when Vivian's old fears surfaced and she pulled away. Times when Marcus said the wrong thing and had to earn back ground he thought he had already covered. Arguments about parenting decisions and boundaries and the best way to load a dishwasher. But there were also breakthroughs. The first time Vivian laughed at one of his jokes without stopping herself. The first family dinner where they felt like an actual family instead of 3 people trying to figure out how to share the same space. The first time Zara introduced Marcus to a school friend as, "my daddy," without any hesitation or explanation. 1 year after the doorstep revelation that changed everything, Marcus and Vivian stood in his new office, looking at Zara's painting still hanging on the wall. She drew a new one, Marcus said. For my birthday. He showed her the latest addition. A house, bigger than the apartment but not a mansion. 3 figures holding hands in front of it. And a sun shining down with the words, "Home is where your family is," written in crayon across the top. She is not subtle, is she? Vivian smiled. She knows what she wants. That is more than most people can say. What do you want, Marcus? The question came out of nowhere, but somehow he had been waiting for it. I want to wake up every morning knowing I get to see you and Zara. I want to build something meaningful with my work, something that helps people instead of just impressing them. I want to be the father Zara deserves and the partner you deserve. I want to spend the rest of my life earning the trust you have been slowly, painfully giving me. He paused, then continued. And honestly, I want to kiss you. I have wanted to kiss you for approximately 367 days. But I have been waiting for you to be ready. Vivian stared at him. Then she laughed, a real laugh, the kind he remembered from 7 years ago. 367 days. You have been counting. Every single one. Well then. She stepped closer. I suppose we should not waste any more time. When they kissed, it felt like coming home after a very long journey. Like finding something precious that had been lost and given up for gone. When they pulled apart, both of them were crying. "I love you," Marcus said. "I never stopped. Not for a single day of the past 7 years." "I love you too. I tried not to. I tried so hard to stop. But you made it impossible." "Good. I plan to keep making it impossible for the rest of our lives." They kissed again, and this time neither of them was crying. The next challenge was telling Zara. They sat her down in the living room, both of them nervous in a way that seemed ridiculous given that they were about to deliver news she had been hoping for since she was old enough to understand what families looked like. "Sweetheart, we need to talk to you about something important," Vivian began. Zara looked between them with suspicious hope. "Are you getting married?" Marcus choked on his surprise. "What makes you ask that? You have been looking at each other weird for weeks. Like you want to talk but forgot how. And mommy smiles more. And you smile more. And when people smile at each other like that, they usually get married. At least in the movies." Vivian and Marcus exchanged glances. "We are not getting married yet," Vivian said carefully. "But Daddy and I have decided to date. To see if we can be together as a real family." "You are already a real family," Zara said with the certainty of a 7-year-old who had been drawing that reality for years. "You just did not know it." Marcus felt tears threatening again. "When did you get so smart?" "I have always been smart. You just were not around to notice." The words could have stung, but Zara delivered them with a grin that took any edge off. "Fair point," Marcus conceded. "I missed a lot. I am sorry." "It is okay. You are here now. That is what matters." Zara launched herself at both of them, wrapping her arms around their necks and pulling them into a group hug. "I have rules though," she announced once she released them. "You have rules for us?" Vivian asked with amusement. "Yes. Daddy has to come to breakfast sometimes. Not just dinner. And we need to have movie nights. And you both have to stop looking at each other weird when you think I am not watching. It is creepy." Marcus laughed. "We do not look at each other weird." "Yes, you do. Maya's parents do the same thing. She says it is gross but it means they love each other." "We will try to be less creepy," Vivian promised. "Good. Now can we order pizza? Important family discussions require pizza." They ordered pizza. They watched a movie. Zara fell asleep on the couch between them, her head on Marcus's shoulder and her feet in Vivian's lap. "This is what I was scared of," Vivian whispered. "What?" "This. How perfect this feels. How much I want it to last. How much it would hurt to lose it." "You are not going to lose it. I am not going anywhere. Promise?" "I promise." She leaned her head against his other shoulder, and they sat like that until the movie ended, a family finally complete. What Marcus did not tell Vivian that night was that he had already bought a ring. It sat in his desk drawer at the office, waiting for the right moment. He had looked at it every day for 3 months, reminding himself to be patient. To let her set the pace. To earn every step forward. But he also knew that some things were worth waiting for. And Vivian Baptiste was worth waiting a lifetime. If this story has touched your heart, if you are rooting for Marcus and Vivian to find their happy ending, subscribe to this channel right now. Drop a comment telling me whether you think Marcus has done enough to earn Vivian's trust. And keep watching, because what happens next will have you reaching for the tissues. The proposal did not go according to plan. But then again, the best moments in life rarely do. Marcus had planned the perfect proposal. A rooftop restaurant with a view of the city. A private table. A string quartet playing the song from their first dance 7 years ago. What he had not planned for was Zara finding the ring 3 days before the scheduled event. Why is there a diamond in your desk drawer? She asked casually while visiting his office after school. Marcus nearly dropped his coffee. What were you doing in my desk drawer? Looking for scissors. Are you going to ask Mommy to marry you? There was no point lying. Zara had her mother's ability to see right through deception. Yes. But it was supposed to be a surprise. Zara's face split into the biggest grin he had ever seen. Can I help? Please. I already planned the flower arrangements months ago. I have been practicing. You planned flower arrangements for a proposal you did not know was happening? I knew it would happen eventually. I wanted to be ready. Marcus stared at his daughter, marveling at her absolute certainty about something he had agonized over for months. Fine. You can help. But you cannot tell your mother. I am excellent at keeping secrets. Ask Maya. She told me about her surprise birthday party and I did not say anything for 2 whole weeks. And so the rooftop restaurant was abandoned in favor of something else entirely. Something that Zara helped design. Something that felt more like them than any fancy venue ever could. It was a Saturday afternoon in the park where they had spent so many hours during those first difficult months. The park where Marcus had pushed Zara on the swings while Vivian watched from the bench, waiting for him to fail. The park where trust had been rebuilt one afternoon at a time. Zara had decorated a picnic blanket with flowers she had arranged herself. Marcus had prepared food from the restaurant where Vivian and he had their first official date, back when their relationship was new and fragile and full of possibility. Vivian arrived expecting a simple family picnic. What she found was her daughter practically vibrating with excitement and Marcus looking more nervous than she had ever seen him. What is going on? Sit down, Mommy, Zara instructed. Daddy has something to say. Marcus took Vivian's hands in his. 7 years ago, I let you walk out of my life because I was too much of a coward to fight for you. I believed lies about you because the truth was too painful to face. I spent years building a life that looked perfect from the outside but felt empty on the inside. Marcus. Let me finish. Please. He took a deep breath. 2 years ago, I almost died on an operating table. And in those moments when I was unconscious, I did not dream about money or success or any of the things I had spent my life chasing. I dreamed about a woman with dark eyes who once told me that my soul was mine to control. I dreamed about a life I had thrown away. Vivian's eyes were shining with tears. When I woke up, I made a decision. I was going to find a way to live differently. I just did not know how. And then Margaret showed up at my door with a 6-year-old girl who had my eyes, and suddenly everything made sense. We found you, Zara interrupted. And you found us. And now we are a family. Marcus laughed softly. Yes, exactly. Now we are a family. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the ring. Vivian Baptiste, you taught me what real love looks like. You raised our daughter to be brilliant and kind and brave. You gave me a second chance when I did not deserve one. Will you let me spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of that chance? Will you marry me? Vivian was crying now, tears streaming down her face. But she was also smiling, the kind of smile that transforms a face from beautiful to radiant. Yes, she whispered. Yes, of course yes. Zara cheered so loudly that half the park turned to look. She threw her arms around both her parents, squeezing them into a group hug that nearly knocked Marcus over. I knew it, she declared. I knew you would say yes. I told Maya and she did not believe me, but I knew. Marcus slid the ring onto Vivian's finger. It fit perfectly. I love you, he said. I love you too. Even though you made me wait way too long to say yes to a proposal I would have accepted months ago. I wanted to make sure you were ready. I have been ready since you stood between Zara and your mother at the school. Since you chose us over everything you had ever known. She cupped his face in her hands. You earned this, Marcus. Every day for the past 2 years, you earned this. They kissed while Zara made exaggerated gagging sounds, then joined in the celebration with another round of hugs. The wedding was held 3 months later, in a garden that neither of them had ever seen before. Zara suggested it. 50 guests, only people who truly loved them. No society photographers. No designer dresses chosen for their price tags. Just love, finally allowed to flourish in the open. Margaret Baptiste, 84 years old and refusing to miss this moment, sat in the front row with tears streaming down her face. She had orchestrated all of this with a single visit to a Hamptons estate, and she had lived to see the result. Zara served as flower girl, taking her role with the intensity of a surgeon performing delicate work. She scattered petals with mathematical precision, pausing at the end of the aisle to give Marcus a thumbs up before taking her seat. When Vivian appeared, Marcus forgot how to breathe. She wore a simple dress, nothing like the elaborate gowns he had seen at society weddings. But she was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen, walking toward him with sunshine in her hair and forever in her eyes. You showed up, she whispered when she reached him. I will always show up. For the rest of our lives. The officiant began the ceremony, but Marcus barely heard the words. He was too focused on Vivian's face, on the journey that had brought them to this moment, on the miracle of being given a second chance. Do you, Marcus, take Vivian to be your wife? To love and support her dreams, to respect her independence, and to be a true partner in all aspects of your life together? I do. With all my heart, for all my life. Do you, Vivian, take Marcus to be your husband? Trusting in his growth and change, believing in his commitment to you and your children, and opening your heart to love again? I do. By the power vested in me, I pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. They kissed while Zara cheered from the front row, her voice rising above all the others. I now present to you the Reeves family, the officiant announced. Marcus, Vivian, and Zara. The reception was held in the same garden, with string lights glowing as the sun set and music playing from a speaker that Zara had insisted on curating. They danced their first dance as a married couple while their daughter watched with satisfaction, as if she had personally orchestrated everything. Which, in many ways, she had. Any regrets? Vivian asked as they swayed together. Only one. What is that? That it took me so long to find my way back to you. Maybe we both needed those years. Maybe we needed to become the people we are now before we could make this work. Maybe. But I am grateful for every day from now on. Even when I am grumpy from staying up late with clients. Especially then. I love your dedication to your work. And when Zara is a teenager and giving us attitude, I will love watching you handle her with the same firm kindness you have always shown. And when your business trips conflict with school events, then business trips get rescheduled. Family comes first now. Always. Vivian smiled, seeing the truth of that commitment in his eyes. I love you, Marcus Reeves. I love you too, Vivian Reeves. Thank you for giving me a second chance I did not deserve. Thank you for becoming someone who did deserve it. As the evening progressed, Marcus found himself watching his new family with wonder. Zara was teaching Margaret a dance move she had learned at school, both of them laughing as they stumbled through the steps. Vivian's colleagues from her design firm were mingling with Marcus's new Chicago team, trading stories about the couple's separate journeys to this moment. There were no society photographers. No gossip columnists. No representatives of the Reeves dynasty or the old money world that had once defined Marcus's existence. There was just love, finally allowed to exist without shame or secrecy or manipulation. Victoria Reeves had not been invited. She had received a card announcing the marriage, along with a brief note from Marcus explaining that she was welcome to have a relationship with her grandchildren when she could genuinely apologize for what she had done. He did not expect to hear from her any time soon. Some bridges, once burned, could not be rebuilt. And Marcus had learned that not all bridges were worth rebuilding in the first place. 5 years later, the house from Zara's childhood drawings finally existed. It was not a mansion. It was not a monument to wealth or status. It was a home, with a garden where vegetables grew alongside flowers, with a studio where Vivian created designs that changed people's lives, with an office where Marcus worked on projects that mattered. Zara was 12 now, an emerging artist with her mother's talent and her father's stubbornness. She had won 3 school art competitions and was already talking about the design school she wanted to attend when she was older. Gabriel, their 4-year-old son, had been a surprise that neither of them had expected but both of them had welcomed with joy. He had Vivian's dark eyes and Marcus's bone structure, and he toddled through the house like he owned every inch of it. Margaret had defied her doctor's predictions and lived to see both grandchildren thriving. She was 89 now, slower than she used to be, but still sharp enough to offer unsolicited advice about everything from child rearing to garden design. It was a Sunday afternoon, the kind of lazy day that Marcus had once thought was a waste of time. Now he understood that these were the days that mattered most. The ordinary moments that made up an extraordinary life. He was helping Zara with her art portfolio for a summer program while Vivian and Gabriel built pillow forts in the living room. The house was messy, filled with evidence of life. Toys scattered across floors. Artwork covering walls. Books stacked everywhere. It was perfect. "Dad, do you think I should include the family portrait series?" Zara asked, spreading out her work on the kitchen table. Marcus studied the paintings. They had evolved from childhood crayon drawings to sophisticated pieces that showed real artistic maturity. But the theme remained the same. Family. Connection. Love. "I think they are your strongest work," he said honestly. "They tell a story that matters. The story of us. The story of us. And of everyone who builds a family from scratch. Who chooses love over convenience. Who shows up even when it is hard." Zara nodded thoughtfully. "I am going to title the series, Showing Up. Because that is what you did, right? You showed up every day until we believed you would stay." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "That is exactly what I did. It is a good story. The kind that should be told. Maybe you will tell it someday. Through your art. Maybe I will." The doorbell rang, interrupting their conversation. Gabriel ran to answer it, as he always did, followed closely by Vivian trying to keep him from flinging the door open to strangers. But when the door opened, it was not a stranger. Victoria Reeves stood on the porch, older and frilier than Marcus had ever seen her. She was not dressed in designer clothes. She was not accompanied by assistants or lawyers. She was just an old woman, standing alone, with an envelope in her trembling hands. "I am not here to cause trouble," she said quickly, before anyone could react. "I just wanted to give you this." She held out the envelope. Marcus took it, uncertain what to expect. Inside was a letter, handwritten on plain paper. No expensive stationery. No formal language. "I spent years believing I knew what was best for everyone. I was wrong. I destroyed something beautiful because it did not fit my expectations. I controlled and manipulated and hurt people I should have protected. I drove away my only son because I could not accept that his choices were different from mine." Marcus looked up from the letter. Victoria's eyes were shining with unshed tears. "I do not deserve forgiveness. I know that. But I needed you to know that I am sorry. Truly sorry. Not for what it cost me, but for what it cost you. For the years you lost with Vivian. For the time you missed with Zara. For the pain I caused everyone in my desperate need to control things that were never mine to control." Vivian had come to stand beside Marcus. She read the letter over his shoulder, her expression unreadable. "Why now?" she asked quietly. "After all these years?" Victoria looked at her for a long moment. "Because I am dying. And because I realized that I would rather spend my last months trying to make amends than carrying the weight of what I did to my grave." There was a long silence. Gabriel had retreated to hide behind Vivian's legs, sensing the tension without understanding it. Zara stood in the kitchen doorway, watching with the sharp eyes of a child who understood more than adults gave her credit for. "Come in," Marcus said finally. "We should talk." The conversation that followed was difficult. Painful. Full of anger and grief and the slow, agonizing process of lancing a wound that had festered for years. Victoria met her grandchildren properly for the first time. Zara was polite but guarded. Gabriel did not understand the significance but was happy to show off his toys to a new audience. It was not a happy ending. Not exactly. Too much had happened for that. But it was a beginning. A crack in the wall that had separated Victoria from her son for almost a decade. "I do not know if I can ever fully forgive you," Marcus said as Victoria prepared to leave. "What you did to Vivian, to me, to Zara, it changed all of our lives in ways we can never undo. I know. I do not expect forgiveness. I just wanted the chance to try to do better. Whatever time I have left." Vivian, who had been silent for most of the conversation, finally spoke. "Forgiveness is not about you, Victoria. It is about us. About whether we want to carry the weight of hating you for the rest of our lives." She took a breath. "I do not want to carry that weight anymore. I am not saying I trust you. I am not saying I like you. But I am saying that I am willing to let you try to be different. For Marcus's sake. For the children's sake. Even for your own sake." Victoria's composed facade finally cracked. Tears streamed down her face as she nodded. "Thank you. Thank you for giving me a chance I do not deserve." Sound familiar? Vivian glanced at Marcus with a small smile. "Yes," he said quietly. "It does." After Victoria left, the family sat together in the living room. Gabriel was asleep in Vivian's arms. Zara was curled up on the couch between her parents, processing what had just happened. "Do you think she means it?" Zara asked. "About being sorry?" Marcus considered the question carefully. "I think she has spent a long time being unhappy, and she has finally realized that her unhappiness was her own fault. Whether that turns into real change, I do not know. But I think she is trying. People can change, right? Like you did? People can change. But only if they really want to. And only if they are willing to do the work." "You did the work," Zara said. "You showed up every day. You became a real dad. I am still becoming. Every day. That is the thing about change. It is not a destination. It is a journey." Zara nodded, her young face thoughtful. "I am glad you found your way back to us." "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." That night, after the children were asleep, Marcus and Vivian sat on their back porch, looking at stars that seemed brighter here than they ever had in the Hamptons. "Do you ever regret the years we lost?" Marcus asked. Vivian thought about it. "Sometimes. Those years were hard. Harder than anything I ever imagined. But they also made me who I am. They gave me Zara. They gave me my business. They gave me the strength to know that I could survive anything. And now? Now I have all of that, plus you. Plus Gabriel. Plus a life that I never dared to dream about because it seemed too good to be possible." She leaned her head against his shoulder. "So no. I do not regret the years we lost. Because they led us here. And here is pretty wonderful." Marcus wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. Life does not always give you the story you wanted, he said quietly. But you get to decide what the story means. Where did you hear that? Zara said something like it once. When she was explaining her art philosophy. She is wise beyond her years, that one. She gets it from her mother. Vivian smiled. And her stubbornness? That might be from me. They sat together in comfortable silence, listening to the night sounds and thinking about everything that had brought them to this moment. A 6-year-old girl with gray-green eyes had shown up at a mansion door with her great-grandmother and changed everything. That was where the story began. But it was not where the story ended. The story ended here. On a back porch. With two people who had found their way back to each other against impossible odds. With children sleeping safely inside. With a future that stretched out before them, full of ordinary days and extraordinary love. Sometimes the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected messengers. Sometimes love finds its way back despite every obstacle placed in its path. And sometimes, when a 6-year-old shows up and speaks a truth that shakes you to your core, the only thing to do is let it change everything. This is where our story ends. But before you go, if this story taught you something or you can relate to it, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more stories like this.